As you know, I operate a SolarEdge photovoltaic system myself, and now at Intersolar, I want to check out what's new for the home. Definitely a new wall box designed to channel the solar power directly into the car. Now we'll take a calm and detailed look at the entire ecosystem here. Have fun, let's get started. Robert, Niels, great to see you again. Hi, pleasure to meet you. And you at SolarEdge, when homeowners are on their journey to installing a photovoltaic system, they don't actually come across you right away, I would say. You've been in the business for a very long time. I've gained a lot of experience growing up with the optimizers. Let's have a conversation about that. If I'm working with Ligheim, what's the process to begin with your services? How does power from the solar panels reach the house?
Yes. So you already mentioned the optimizer, and that's essentially our core competency. We essentially optimize the string of modules. You always need a series of modules, typically 10, 12, or 18 modules in one string. When using a string inverter, the weakest module essentially determines the current flow. With the optimizer, every single module is optimized so that we get the maximum out of it. So not just dirt or shadows. In the future, you also have a certain degradation. It is important that the modules age differently. This way, we can still maximize the yield even with a southern-facing installation setup. Our core expertise lies in inverters combined with the optimizer technology.
So my question would be, in what sizes do you offer the inverters? As you just mentioned, there are smaller and also larger systems.
We have solutions for everything from single-family homes to commercial properties. That's where it starts. If it's under 5 or 6 kilowatts, you can also go single-phase. We have single-phase solutions. From around 4.5, 5 kilowatts onwards, it transitions into 3-phase. We provide solutions up to 12.0. 12 kilowatt peak and can even extend up to 25 kilowatt peak. So depending on how large the roof is or also how many roof surfaces are used, we have a solution for everything.
Yes, and as a homeowner, do I need to worry if I mention having 3 different roof orientations? How exactly do you handle that for me?
Exactly. 3 different roof orientations are ideal for us because as the sun shifts throughout the day, each one receives a unique angle of sunlight exposure. But with the optimizer, you can actually put everything into one string because the optimizer balances out precisely these different angles of sunlight exposure, and you always get the maximum yield.
Yes. Now I also have a system from you, and you can literally see on a module level, each individual module, how much production I have there. And looking at the yearly data, I also find it really interesting. From the data perspective, I can see exactly which part of my roof has the highest or the sister production. I've got a good grasp on it all. Those optimizers are quite something. How many years of warranty do you offer on those optimizers?
Exactly. We basically have a combination. So we offer 12 years of warranty on the inverter and 25 years of warranty on the optimizer. Naturally, you might also think, where is the potential weak point? Of course, you have more electronics on the roof, but that comes with significant benefits. And that's precisely why we offer the corresponding warranty. Not only do you achieve optimal yield with the optimizer, but we also continuously monitor the temperature at the connector. If there's ever an issue on the roof, we'll immediately know exactly where it's located. If the issue were more significant, we would immediately shut down the system to ensure everything happens with a certain level of safety.
Okay, for many people, it's an issue. I've generated solar power, now there's the solar peak law, and at midday, I no longer receive feed-in tariffs. I definitely want to store solar energy. It's just a great feeling for so many people to use the solar power from their own photovoltaic system at home. What storage do you offer?
Exactly. For our current system, we primarily rely on our 48-volt battery setup configuration. You can also stack them 4 on top of each other, up to 5 per device. If you had 2 devices, then you could do something great. 2x5 batteries. So we've got really solid solutions there. And you already mentioned it, the solar peak law, certain regulations keep popping up regularly. And I would always say that's good for us because the regulations are simply there to protect the grid. And we are a premium provider. We also develop excellent software. And with our technology, we can always keep moving forward. So especially when it comes now, no matter how it is in Europe, let's say, perhaps there will be a regulation regarding the feed-in. We've also been working on our software to, for instance, shift the battery charging process to the midday hours. So you could feed in early. At midday, when curtailment would be necessary, we then store the curtailed energy directly into the battery.
So do you use smart storage charging?
Exactly, intelligent charging of the storage system based on weather forecasts. In some countries, we already have it. We're not sure yet if it's coming to Germany, but not at the moment. Negative feed-in tariffs might come. We're seeing it in the Netherlands and Belgium. We'll adjust it down to 0 at the connection point, ensuring the house continues to run without any disruptions. Of course, you can turn it off, but then nothing works. The key point is when you're no longer allowed to feed in, that it then reduces the output at the feed-in point. Both will be ready in 2 to 3 months. We'll finish in Q3, as Belgium and the Netherlands already had negative feed-in tariffs last year. And that's when we realized we had to act quickly because we know it could eventually happen in other European countries too.
Okay, you're up to speed. Great. You've already touched on storage systems, and I'd like to delve into that a bit further. What cell tech do you use there?
Yes, LFP, it's now the industry standard, with LFP being the technology everyone's focusing on and prioritizing heavily.
You mentioned it's modularly expandable. At which specific stages is that actually possible, since some others begin with a small step?
Exactly. It has also been shown that 4.6 or 4 kilowatt hours is the optimal amount for getting started or for expanding. So we have 4.6 kilowatt hours, and then you can either expand it later or begin immediately with 3 or 4 blocks. And we're also noticing a trend where 2 to 3 blocks typically serves as the most common starting point. But of course, there's always the skeptic who says, just give me 1 block. All right, then we'll start with 1 block. You can easily expand it from there.
What about expandability? If after 3-4 years I realize I want to expand, is that a problem? Yeah, sure.
That's always a big question. But the crucial point is that in the end, we have a dedicated BMS for each module. And so if one module has degraded a bit, you can simply expand it without the new module being affected, compromised, or impacted in any way. And that's exactly what we're doing.
Yes, great. Good to know. It's absolutely vital for you to monitor that too. What size of storage capacity do I actually need before you guys immediately go for a massive storage option right away? Because it's ultimately a matter of cost. I'd really like to ask one more important question regarding the storage capacity. Solar power, sometimes I only have a few hours, so I might want to charge quickly. The charging speed, with what power can you charge into and discharge from the storage?
Yes, exactly. It's 5 kilowatts in and 5 kilowatts out. We are, of course, also seeing dynamic electricity tariffs emerging on the market now. The roofs, I always say you make use of the roof space much more extensively, that there is already a demand that in the future you can charge and discharge more efficiently. We are addressing that with our new generation. But typically 5 kilowatts in and 5 kilowatts out is also completely sufficient.
Yeah, I've had that so far. I've been managing really well with it, I have to say. But sure, there are moments, let's call them sweet spots, where you think just a little bit more would be really nice. But you guys can also, you already mentioned earlier, 2 inverters and more storage, and then you can also have 10 kilowatts of power if you want.
Exactly. If the rooftop system grows larger, we have solutions for big setups. You can use 2 hybrid inverters, giving you twice 5. That's definitely possible.
Yes, I've already made a video about that. I'll gladly link it here for you. A customer actually implemented it exactly like that. The topic of making solar power usable, I think we're also touching on a very important subject here. Sector coupling, specifically the integration of heat pumps, as well as electric mobility. Robert, we've now moved over to the new charging station. What does it do?
Exactly. So we've already launched the first generation and of course noticed that the market is asking for a few more features that we didn't have yet. So the first thing, as you can see, it's very sleek, very compact. Some people come up and say, oh, it's really fancy. So that was one thing, that it's important for it to be easy to install as well. So you can easily remove the cover, screw the plate into place, handle the wiring, and then securely put the cover back on. Then, of course, we ultimately chose to go with just a socket because the end customer made it clear they don't really need a cable or would rather determine the cable length themselves. The other says, yeah, I'd actually like to have a cable included. Then you can plug in a cable and you can securely fasten it from the inside properly. You don't want the neighbor to steal it. So we've actually thought of both things there. And of course, now the features that we perhaps didn't fully have or consider in the past, you know what I mean? The definitive feature is single phase, dynamically switching to 3-phase. Great, excellent, exactly. So if you have a small photovoltaic system, you can't get into this 3-phase setup with a small PV system because it only starts at around 4.1 kilowatts. So you need the option to start single phase. But even if you have large systems, you also have the issue that in the fall or spring, the photovoltaic system doesn't perform as well or earlier in the evening. But then the car is at home, so it's a very important feature for the end customer to have the option to start on just a limited number of phases. If enough energy is available, it can switch to 3 phases. Of course, RFID card recognition in case multiple people use the wall box. And of course, there are also 2 versions. One has a mid-meter, the other doesn't have a mid-meter.
Why do I need an MID meter?
Exactly. Why do I need the MID meter? If you have a company car, just like I do, you'll likely charge at home and then bill it back to your company. And I can use the MID meter to ensure exactly how much energy from this RFID card has flowed into the car. And then I can also bill it as
employee. And that's all in here?
Everything included, yes, exactly.
You can see here, very small, that the RFID chip is there, yes?
If you've got the card, you'll need to identify yourself here and then it gets going.
Maybe once more for you, single phase, 3-phase, it always sounds a bit special, very technical, but it means you said it really well. If I want to charge excess power from the PV system into the electric car, no grid consumption. Then I can begin charging the car with very low power using single phase, which is ideal for managing energy efficiency. In the past, that wasn't possible with only 3-phase. So you've created the opportunity to get even more solar power into your own car. Yes, great. You have your own charging station. Now, it's also often the case that someone might have already been driving electric before, they've got a wall box installed, and now you're looking to set up your own system instead. Does he get a wall box integrated with you?
Exactly, that was also an important point. We already have car owners who've purchased wall boxes, and we've consistently checked which brands are most popular on the market. So we've now integrated the first 3. For that, we naturally need our one controller, which we'll get to in just a moment. With the one controller, we've successfully integrated third-party chargers on one hand, and on the other, we've also connected the heat pump from Vineland. And this way, we can also ensure that if the homeowner already has a charging station from a different manufacturer, we can seamlessly integrate it as well.
Yeah, that's great, because it's often like, oh, bummer, I've got a wall box that simply can't be integrated. That's a fantastic intervention. Awesome. Integration, that's where we're at with the wall box, heat pump, energy management. Let's move over to the energy management. It's hanging here.
Exactly, it's hanging right next to it. So this is our one controller, and the one controller essentially functions as the central control unit in a single family home. It connects the consumers and, you could say, the producers, seamlessly bridging them together. The key is that you can also implement dynamic electricity tariffs. We started dynamic electricity tariffs with the battery last year. So if the end customer has a dynamic electricity tariff with their provider, the battery can be charged from the grid when prices are low, but the energy is consumed in the house. That's very important. We ensure that the energy can then be consumed in the house. And now with our new charging station and the one controller, it's also possible to implement dynamic electricity tariffs with the wall box. We're still adjusting the heat pump. It should be ready by year's end. But I also think the biggest lever for dynamic electricity tariffs is, I believe, quite simply, to implement it with the charging station. So a car typically has 60, 80 or 90 kilowatt hours. When it's at home overnight and electricity prices are low, I can fully charge it using cheaper tariff rates.
Yes, I myself also have a heat pump and an electric car and all the things you listed. And I can tell you the electric car is really the biggest lever, because that's where the savings potential lies in charging it. And what I've also noticed with the heat pump, in the end, it doesn't really make a difference whether the cheaper electricity comes from storage or directly from the grid. So I can easily manage it by first charging the cheaper electricity into storage, of course. And then when the heat pump maybe kicks in 3 hours later and the electricity price is high again, the cheap electricity comes from the storage.
Exactly, that's possible. Of course, we aim to combine everything, but as a company, you must always take it step by step. The charging station was our main priority, and we've successfully achieved it.
Yes, how do you integrate heat pumps otherwise? With S-Ready, right?
Exactly. So for all other providers, we use SG Ready. Then you'll have 4 switching modes available. That way we can also handle surplus charging and adjust other modes. So we've managed to solve that with SG Ready. And I would say 95% of heat pump manufacturers are actually SG Ready, smart grid ready. Thus, we can include it.
Yes, and then you basically have a partnership with Wyland, right?
Exactly. Our partnership is with Wyland. We've implemented an EE bus integration there. You can also actively track the solar power output as it begins to rise and steadily increases. You can't do that with SG Ready right now, but we're working on pushing that more and more and integrating further heat pumps in the future with EE bus.
Yes, great. If I have a heating element, some customers say, I have a buffer tank, I want to keep using my existing heating system.
Yes, exactly. So there's the hot water controller from us. And the important thing there is that it's stepless, because you don't always have the exact kilowatt output from the roof, which the hot water controller can handle now. So we've also chosen a size that's typical for a single family home, 0 to 3 kilowatts. It can regulate it continuously and is still capable of channeling any surplus solar energy directly into the water.
Yes, great, awesome. It's fantastic that you've thought of everything, including dynamic electricity tariffs. But what about the security of the data? I'd really like to discuss that with you, Robert. What are you guys doing about it?
Exactly, Nils. You mentioned security with our optimizer, of course. Let's try to make the photovoltaic systems as safe as possible. But now it's also important to consider that 2 things are coming into play. Data protection is important because we naturally collect data on site. I always say we then transfer it to our server. Cloud or server is essentially always the same. First of all, we have our servers located in Frankfurt. and those are our servers. Now the data is being processed there with AI, of course. The systems have to keep getting smarter. Then they'll be transported back and used again on site, so to speak, effectively. What's important? That naturally these data, we're sending out a clear and strong signal. Under no circumstances will we engage in any form of data misuse. We are fully aware that these are highly sensitive and critically important data. And we also understand that they must not be lost at any point in the process, so that we absolutely ensure that. And of course, you now notice the next thing, that with photovoltaics becoming more and more prevalent in the energy sector, that now photovoltaic systems are becoming critical infrastructure. Last year, that wasn't even a topic yet.
Yes, indeed. But I also notice it from the comments all the time. The issue is security. Can I be remotely shut down or something like that? That's precisely why I'm always willing to address it.
Exactly. So we've always placed a lot of emphasis on ensuring that, cybersecurity, that the systems are secure. Of course, there are different levels. Many assume it's just about the device. I need to ensure there are strict password requirements implemented to prevent creating any entry points and to make sure no one can disable the system easily. But you have 4 levels here. Cybersecurity truly begins with transparency and effective control measures. It's straightforward, but in the end, both the advertiser and the end customer should have clear and comprehensive visibility of their setup and operations. That's first. Then, network protection. Securing the entire process, especially data transport, even on site, to block unauthorized access. I have data protection on one hand, preventing data misuse or ensuring there is no unauthorized access to the data. And as the final stage, we have the device on site. It absolutely must be secure to ensure no one can tamper with it or perform any unauthorized shutdowns. That's a critical issue we must address.
Yes, thank you for the clear response, as this is a crucial topic. You've clearly put a great deal of thought into it. Yes, thank you very much for your time, everyone. And if you're interested in learning more about SolarEdge, you'll find some links to SolarEdge below the video. See you soon, sunny regards.